Hi, this is Stu back over at the 2020 Club. I hope everybody's having a nice afternoon and welcome. Yesterday on the webinar, we talked about image branding and watermarking. And I'm just going to go through some procedures on Photoshop and other image processing software I use when I get images ready to upload to a website. So over the months, we prepared branding for the 2020 Club. In Photoshop, if you're not looking at the image full size, it might look a little raggedy or pixelated. So if we view it in full size, it's a lot bigger and it's a lot clearer in full size. And the reason why we do this is so that when it's shrunk online, we get to see it really clearly. I like to include both in the lower right hand corner or left corner or top left and bottom right, however you want to do it. It's all good. So we're going to go back to the view window to fit it on the screen while I process it, and maybe just a tad smaller. If I hit Control minus, I zoom out a little bit. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to check the size of my actual image, and it's right what I intended, 1600 by 900, resolution 72 for the web, and this is a good clear image for sharing on a blog or social media. Facebook came out with some sizes a couple years ago that were different than what some people thought were appropriate, and they started at 1200 by 630, which I think is also exactly about 16 by 9 aspect ratio. So everybody scratched their heads when they started doing that, but it's the same reason Google is now calling for 1600 pixel wide images. What I'm going to do is switch it up a little bit here, and I'm going to open up, since I'm doing this too, and I'm going to crop my image, duplicate it onto the picture that I started with. And here I will take this, and to make it look correct, size it down to about the same. And I'll put this one down a little further and leave those two up there. What may seem incredible now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the layer behind after I crop the whole thing down, because I'm making a watermark for use on other images, not just this image. So now I'm going to crop this. That looks fairly good. If I looked at it in the 100% view, it's extremely clear and everything looks good. So I'm going to get rid of the background, and it still has the typing of the domain for fine art tips there. And I'm going to save this image, actually export it for web, and I'm going to save it as a PNG, portable network graphic, so that we have the background, the transparency in the background. And I'm going to pick the folder that that goes into over here and call it, and I'm going to prepare a couple of images in another piece of software that I use, and it is called FastStone Image Photo Resizer. This is available free off the web, and it's an incredible program that I found quite a few years ago. And some of the best software doesn't look as fancy as what we may be using now, but this does an incredible job. So Tech with Stu posts, I'm going to grab 3 images. I think this is the one. Batching your photos. Okay, I'm going to add all of these. I can get a preview of them as I look at them. And they're all 1920 by 1280, which is also 16 by 9. And I'm going to be processing them down using this software. That's the entire point, to 1600 pixels wide. So you can look up FastStone Photo Resizer on the web. I have version 4.3. I think that's probably fairly current. It doesn't change often. And Reg was talking the other day with Lori about how to run this on a Mac. And a lot of people run Windows programs on a Mac, and this is a Windows program, so you'll have to get your Mac fixed up to find out where your output folder is, and using the advanced options and then the image name itself. So I'm going to browse the folder that I want to output the files to. And I have this here, Tech with Stu Posts, and I have a folder called Output. This is the file folder that I had the files in that I'm going to input. This isn't really hard. There's quite a few little steps, and if you miss one, you'll figure it out. So I'm also going to go to my advanced options, and I'm going to resize the photos. And I'm going to say a predefined side, which is the width. I want it 1600 pixels. And with a watermark, okay, it says add watermark, okay, and this is another client. And I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to find our size of the screen. But we're setting it up for a 1600 pixel wide image. So that being done, you check this watermark, check resize. All these other things are elementary and they don't need fussing. And then we're going to say, okay, this star is a wildcard in the file name. So we want all the original file names, and it says Amazing River and Mountain Landscape for the 2020 Club JPG. I guess they were JPEGs to begin with. Anyway, I'm going to put in here, and this is totally unconstitutional, but it's the only program I've ever found where you can actually put your own domain name with a .com in it, because every other process on earth will reject that as a file name because it has a dot in it. The dot is reserved for the end of the file name called JPEG. But this, amazingly enough, the first time I saw it work, I was astounded. And I just discovered it on my own. I wasn't told this. It was one of those things you're doing something and you go, oh, it can do that. So now I've got the batch processing folder set up where all these 4 images are going to go with their watermark. And that output folder is over here. And right now, the output folder is empty. So as we process these photos, they're going to be dumped into that output folder with this file name in front of the wildcard, and keep those file names for SEO. And we're going to get to that too, because we talked about alt tags. So I'm going to go ahead and convert them. And we can see in the output folder, if I view extra large icons, yes, it put the images, the watermarked image, onto the file as intended. When I upload one of these pictures to the finearttips.com blog, I'm going to show you how I accelerate the search engine optimization with the use of alt tags here in 1 minute. I'm just going to get set up for that. Okay, we're back in the back end of Lori's site. We're using WordPress, and I have to update WordPress today. And I'm going to pick my category that I'm going to post in, and I'm going to write this blog post after I produce this video that you're watching right now. And I am going to add a featured image. You'll see over here we do SEO as well, and that's a whole different topic for another day. But I'm going to set the featured image by uploading it to our media library, and I'm going to select my folder, 2020 Club Build, Tech Posts with Stu, Output. I'm going to select all these images at once, and our server being nice and fast, it's going to crunch them and upload the images to the back end of the site. And it'll take a minute here, but they'll come up one at a time. And they're done. And I thought this was a really cool image, so I'm going to use that for the featured image of this post. And this is where we talked about in the webinar, you must put alt text inside here. And I use my image file name. If you don't put alt text in, Google penalizes you because it's for people with disabilities to be able to read what the image is about. and visually and hearing impaired people that have special devices for looking at websites. So that alt text came from the file name, which is incredible because it's got the .coms in there. And you can see right here, finearttips.com, stu.com, batch processing and branding your photos. And you can add right there, and I could have done it in the file name before, but the alt text, I can say the 2020 club at Fine Art Tips, exactly what I intended to do. Set featured images. So the beauty of this is that you're going to see it on the blog, and I'm just going to save a draft here. If I put that image in the post just for demonstration purposes here and save the draft, and since it's a draft, I can preview it, and bingo, in a second, we have a great branded image with SEO built in with the alt tags. That's it for this tech tip blog on image processing. So you're using Photoshop or a program that I can show you. If you don't own Photoshop, how to do this with a website online called befunky.com. And this is not a poor man's Photoshop. It's a great alternative because it also has image processing for layers if you want to do one at a time without the image processing. But you could build a watermark like I did. That was a little bit of an extravagant watermark to have it span the entire width of a 1600 pixel wide image. But you see that it's easily done, easily possible. And you can find beautiful images on the web or take the photographs yourself and build this type of branding in there. And with befunky.com, I'm not going to go into it, but you can put text on the image just like I showed you while I was doing it in Photoshop. So I hope everybody has a great afternoon and the rest of their day. And I'll be back on the Tech Tips blog with Stu at the 2020 Club in short order. We're going to be putting out lots of great tips for you. I hope you enjoy them. Come back soon. Stay well. Be safe.